welcome to a huge edition of In the Pocket, all thanks to Palmerbet with the legend himself, former Saint, former Swan, former Hawk, and just all-round good guy. And I'm talking about Peter Spider Everett. Spider, this is what it's all about, isn't it, big fella? Spring is in the air, mate, and finals footy action at its finest.
Absolutely. You love it, don't you? As soon as you hear that word spring, there's two things that jump to mind, and it's the Spring Racing Carnival and finals footy. And finals footy is here. So, yeah, we can't wait. We're so excited. You think about, the 8 teams that have finally made it, and there's so much speculation about injuries, and the teams that haven't made it are trying to trade and talk players. So it's a good time to be alive. But I think more importantly that week off really just builds the anticipation ready for Thursday night. We can't wait for it. You got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, it is going to be massive, mate. And I'm really expecting, I know we've spoken about it, but I'm thinking that this is going to be a really tight final series, and this first week of the final is going to shape it, isn't it, really?
Well, you try and pick a winner at the moment, and I'm in this little dungeon at the moment down here, and I've got all the big screens up. I've got the injuries. I've got who's in, who's out. I've got the bomb running 24/7 to see the weather that's coming throughout Melbourne. And then, the Saints game got changed from Marvel to the MCG, and, Brisbane are going to be playing in 26 degrees. So, yeah, look, there's so much to cover, so much to sit there and pick through, and who's going to play, the injury concerns. And, I think the most important thing this weekend, and this is where the coaches are worth their weight in gold, these games can be lost and won in the selection committee. So the selection committee this week is just so vital for these teams. We're talking 2 or 3 players that could all make a big difference.
Yeah, spot on, Spite. Absolutely spot on. The weather forecast for the Victorian games, of course, we've got that one final up at the Gabba, but the Victorian, so Thursday, they're saying expected top of 13 degrees, 60% chance of rain. Friday night, expected top of 11, 70% chance of rain. So there is a little bit of ordinary weather coming this weekend, Spite.
Yep, well, if you do want to make some money, and I don't know what Palmerbet's got installed for this weekend, but go and buy yourself a couple of ponchos. Put yourself some ponchos outside the MCG, sell them for $2, and you'll make an absolute fortune. The 3 games are already sold out this weekend, so yeah, it's going to be great. But you know what? The footy players don't care. Both sides got to battle the same conditions, and no difference anywhere. So let's play footy.
Righto, let's have a look at some of the odds, some of the markets, all thanks to Palmerbet, of course. Premiership Market, Spy, we'll start with that. So the Collingwood Football Club is our favourite at $3. Melbourne at $3.70. Brisbane at $3.75. Port Adelaide at $7. Carlton at $10. St Kilda $19. GWS $21. And Sydney Swans $51. Are you happy? Are you comfortable where that sits, Spy?
I'm probably happy with Melbourne at the moment, starting to have a look at it. And, we know they've got the toughest task straight up, Collingwood, but I think there's still a little bit of value. And I know they're the premiership odds, but when you get down a little bit low and we start talking about runners-up and, runners-up for Sydney or Sydney or St Kilda, at the moment where they're sitting, they win the first game, and then suddenly those odds are going to halve. So they're going to come right in. So, yeah, for me, probably if I was to back a premiership team at the moment, I was nowhere near them last weekend, but I'm starting to jump on them. I reckon Melbourne.
Yeah, you're liking the D's, mate.
Yeah, I'm starting to go towards the D's, and we'll dive deeper into Melbourne versus Collingwood a little later on. But they've got a lot of upside, Melbourne, and they haven't been playing at their best, but they love the contested ball.
It's going to be such an important game, that Thursday night game, that is for sure. Righto, this is an interesting market. Most goals in a final series, all thanks to Palmerbet. So Charlie Curno's our favourite at $7, the Coleman medal winner. Bailey Fritsch, so good around goal. Has got a little bit of an injury concern, $7. Charlie Cameron's at $9.50. Joe Danaher at $12. Brody Mychek at $13. Jamie Elliott at $13. Eric Hipwood at $15. Jeremy Finlayson at $21. Toby Green $21. Todd Marshall $21. You've got to probably look at the teams that are going to go deep. And I must admit, I'm thinking around the Charlie Cameron, Joe Danaher mark. Do you reckon, Spide?
You have to be. I don't know why. I can't believe they're that big. I'd be on Joe Danaher and Hipwood, even Charlie. If you take the whole 3 of them, mainly I'd probably go Danaher and Hipwood, but they're going to play 2 games at the Gabba. They should be in 26 degrees, perfect conditions. The other teams are playing in wet, cold conditions, so they're primed up. They just need a day out. I reckon Danaher's, really got his head on the right shoulders, ready to go for this. And there's so much relying on Brisbane to get such a good start. So for me, my money would be Joey Danaher at $12, Hipwood at what's he, 17s or something like that.
Yeah, $15.
$15. Jump over those two. Good conditions. There you men.
Well, the other one too, like down the bottom, like a Toby Green who's at $21, because the Giants are going to have to play every week, so they're going to have to, they're going to have to win their way through. So, if they keep winning and he's kicking 4 or 5 a game, it might be the value too, Spide.
Yeah, well, that's the other way of looking at it. See which teams are going to come from the bottom 4 and be able to make a premiership tilt. But when you've got prime conditions, and then you can then look the other way and think, okay, a Rosie or a Butters for Port Adelaide, they're going to be playing in perfect conditions one week, and then they're down on their home deck the second week, and then they're going to play a couple more games if they lose to Brisbane. So a lot to consider, but my money would be with Danaher and Hipwood.
Righto, love it, big fella. What about stage of elimination? Now this is interesting. The Collingwood Football Club to go out in straight sets, win the Nosby out there, Spide, $4.50. Brisbane to go out in straight sets, they're at $8. They're playing the home game, so they're the outsider. Melbourne at $4.50, Port Adelaide at $4.20. So a pretty even market there, to be honest. Then you go to the preliminary final, Collingwood at $2.50 to get eliminated there. Brisbane at $2.40, Melbourne at $2.30, Port Adelaide $2. So it's virtually, you're just having a stab at one team there. No, you can't split them at all.
And that's what we love. You can't split any team. You don't know, come round one, even this weekend, just the weather, everything just brings it so much closer. So to try and, pinpoint a team and go, you're going to go in straight sets, it's so hard to do. For me, you'd think Port Adelaide would be the money, but at the second chance, they're going to be playing at home. So this home ground advantage starts to really pay off for Brisbane, Port Adelaide, these interstate teams, not as much so for Collingwood when they're playing at Melbourne.
Yeah. Hey, the runners-up is interesting. So for Collingwood to come run, lose the grand final effectively, $4.20. Brisbane at $3.10. Melbourne at $4.33 and Port Adelaide at $4. That's the top 4 teams with a double chance, of course. So it's interesting, isn't it, to see those odds, because Brisbane, obviously, with that MCG hoodoo, are the interesting ones, aren't they?
That's the value for money, isn't it? That's the value there. And even Brisbane, what are they to win the flag? What's at the top?
Brisbane to win the flag at $3.75.
So you got $3.75. You'd expect them to pretty much make it.
Yeah,
two
home finals at Brisbane in good nick, no injuries really.
So for them to come first and second, you get $3.75 or $3.10. Good bets.
Not a bad bet, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one I like is you've got St Kilda and Sydney. They're at $31 and $36 to come runners up. If they win this week, then it starts to get interesting.
Yeah,
momentum. Then it starts to absolutely. So you've got to have the kahunas to say, right, I'm going to back them in early. But for a couple of little bucks to go for those two at $31 and $36, they're going nearly half next week. So it's I love this time of the year. It's just so many variables, but then you stick to one, and those ones that are true and tried, have a crack at.
And I reckon the bottom 4, the preliminary final betting there, all thanks to Palmer Bet's interesting. Carlton to win through to a prelim final and get bombed out at that stage. They're at $4.50. The Giants are at $7. The Saints are at $9, and the Sydney Swans are at $10. So, if you want to play around some, it's the toss of the coin game. Every game this weekend for mine is a toss of the coin game. So you're right, Spotter. They're all going to halve their odds. Depending on what happens this weekend, aren't they?
Yeah, and the weather conditions, I really like Sydney, so they've changed my way of thinking. I like Melbourne. I like also St Kilda. So there's plenty to think about because of the conditions that are in front, and all they have to do is be ahead. Come that final siren. So there's a lot of teams there that like the hard, the contested footy, and that's what's going to win your games this weekend. So a couple of those odds for me, I don't mind them.
Righto, mate. Let's turn our attention to the big football action. This is huge. No more talking about it, mate. We just want to find out exactly what you're doing, Spide, and it starts Thursday night at the MCG, and it's Collingwood taking on the Melbourne Football Club. Now, last time these two sides met, Queen's birthday weekend, the Demons won by 4 points. It was an epic contest, Spidey. Can you remember back that far, mate?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. How many games have we seen this year with Collingwood and also Melbourne in epic games? Collingwood winning them after the siren, if it's a kick or whatever. And you can go through all the games and see, Port Adelaide's been able to do the same. But for me, Thursday night footy, I absolutely love it. It's back, and it just makes the weekend go so much quicker. No one thinks about Friday being a Friday because we're already straight into our footy. But yeah, Collingwood, Melbourne, just one thing they don't have to worry about: who's playing and who's not playing. The selection's going to be tough this week for Collingwood. Big Mason Cox, those conditions really don't suit him. If they have a week or two like that, will he play in the finals? You've really got to start thinking of those. And then, for Melbourne, we know Darcy Moore's going to play. I'm not quite sure. I don't think Dacos will. But, when you start looking at Melbourne, I'm really looking forward to Jack Viney. Jack Viney, that in and under player. He'll be up against Taylor Adams. So they'll be going head-to-head, the two players that are in and under. But don't forget, too, that Melbourne midfielder, Petrarca, Oliver, Viney, all hard-tested winning football players. So for me, I know you can't turn it over against Collingwood, but still, Collingwood can't afford to come through the middle. Try that real quick rebound footy because, you know what, if Melbourne get on it, they'll kick goals.
Yeah. And just going back to the odds, so head-to-head, Collingwood are $1.80, Melbourne at $2. So that market hasn't really changed at all from this time last week, Spide. At the line, the Pies -1.5 at $1.90, Melbourne +1.5 at $1.90. So the Demons have won 4 out of their last 5 games. The Pies have won 2 out of their last 5 games.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. Like 6 weeks ago, Spide, we were kind of saying how far Collingwood, weren't we? So it's amazing. A couple of little injuries to some key players can turn things around pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all those little things, and the hardest thing at the moment is winning form's good form. So, Port Adelaide's a little bit similar, but, Melbourne's just got to do the job that they've done for years. And, I think the pressure is more on Collingwood than it is on Melbourne, just because of the fact that they are Collingwood, the expectations there, Dacos, and, they've got a lot of All-Australians in their team as well. So suddenly, a lot of pressure mounts on Collingwood. We know what their supporter base is like. Their supporter bases, they're already lining up for grand final tickets. But, Melbourne's got a side that I'd be pretty weary of. And in wet, cold conditions and a hard contested brand of football, around the stoppages, I think, Melbourne's still in the top few, Collingwood towards the bottom of the ladder. So for me, it's a tough one. But for me, I'm going to stick with Melbourne. I reckon Melbourne can beat them.
Wow. Geez, I must admit, Spot, I'm keen as on the Pies. I love what they've done. It's going to be interesting. I reckon you're right. Do they go with the extra tall to take on the big man from the Melbourne Football Club? Conditions, I must admit, until you said off air, there's a bit of rain around. I hadn't taken much notice about that, and I just think it's going to be a real interesting selection dilemma, I reckon, for Collingwood, because Gawn is such a good player, but do you risk a Cox in those conditions who might have absolutely no impact on the game whatsoever if it does get really wet?
I don't think it can. Don't forget, Collingwood's still got Elliott, Ginnivan. They've got he can go there.
So would you not play Cox, mate? You wouldn't go that way? No.
Yeah. No. If Darcy Moore if you needed a backup ruckman, put Darcy Moore in there. They do it with Silvani. They do it with other players. Yeah. It's only to pinch hit it really for 5 or 10 minutes, really to control them. But, and just run with Gawn, just to allow him to have no impact. But we know Gawn can get forward, he can kick goals. But I don't think Cox, if it's wet, cold, miserable conditions, you need players on the ground.
I reckon Jackie Ginnivan might be a little bit of X factor, mate. Hit a little bit of form in that final game of the year, and I reckon he's going to get up and about a bit, I reckon.
Well, I tell you what, you listen to the rest of this podcast, and he might just pop up a little later on.
Yes, righto. Well, I'm keen. I'm going Pies. You're going Demons, mate. Simple as that.
Yep.
Righto, let's turn our attention to the next game. It is Friday night at the MCG, back-to-back G games. Carlton v Sydney. 7:50 p.m. head to head. The Blues $1.49. Sydney at $2.65 at the line. Carlton minus $13.5, $1.90. Sydney plus $13.5 at $1.90. So the Blues have firmed a little bit from last week. Now Carlton have won 8 out of their last 9. A little bit of form. 4 out of their last 5 for the Sydney Swans. So they're in good nick as well. Make no mistake about it. Last time, Spide, these two sides met, it was way back on the 26th of May, Friday night football, and the Swans won by 26 points. So they're taking a little bit of confidence heading into the Blue Baggers, mate. What's your thoughts?
Well, Collingwood, Carlton were a different team then. But, when you look at this, Carlton, inexperienced in finals, they're going to be excited but very, very nervous. Sydney were exactly here last year. So they know what they need to do. A couple of players have changed, of course. But, if you call it redemption, but they'll want to prove something come finals time. There's no doubt Sydney are a very proud football club. So they'll want to have a crack here. But, when you look at, again, I know you don't want to compare it all down to weather, but when you've got weather conditions like that, and you've got Harry Mackay and also Charlie Curnow, who are normally pretty big pack marks, attacking the footy, it changes their format. It changes the game. It brings them back down a little bit to our level. So obviously they'll play both of them. But
I was going to ask you, Spot. I want to ask you because I reckon the last 2 games, we touched on this last week, but I reckon since Big Harry's come back in, I know, I just don't reckon that the forward structure, and I reckon they haven't gone as good the last couple of games.
No, they haven't, but they're not going to not play.
Yeah, you can't afford not to, can you?
No. So they're always going to play.
You're right. They need to be 50 metres apart from each other at all times, don't they?
Yeah. They're not allowed to be any closer than 40, 45 metres near each other, and that is the number one rule. But, when you think about it, and, I've kind of looked at this game, and we know how good Sydney is, their pressure and their scoring and just the way they play their brand of football. I think all eyes are going to be on Paddy Cripps, first final. How good's he going to go? And he's such a jet. Like he'll be up and about. But then you got Errol Golden. So you've got so many. Oh, absolutely. And Blakey's had a good year as well, and Heaney and Papley. As much as I like Carlton, and I know they've been good, Sydney are good. Sydney are hitting their straps.
Over the odds, aren't they? 265.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If this was, I reckon this should have been realistically with the way every team's at the moment, probably $1.75, $2.15, Carlton's way. But I'd be on Sydney at $2.60. You can't afford to let that go. I reckon that, those conditions, they'll thrive on those conditions. They'll love it. They'll walk off. Remember when Clarko, and I know he was at Hawthorn, but when he embraced the weather down in Tasmania and took off his top, and mentally. That's Sydney-like. That's Sydney-like. They'll go out there mentally and go, this doesn't worry us. We love this.
Sold out MCG Thursday night. Sold out MCG Friday night. The Blue Army are going to be up and about, aren't they?
They'll be quiet at half time if Sydney are up. I know that. There'll be a lot of empty seats by 3/4 time if the Swanee boys are going. But Swans would love that. Swans would love that crowd.
They thrive on it.
Oh,
so where are you going, Spike?
I'm going Sydney.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gee whiz.
I've just looked at all these, and I must admit, this is probably completely different to what I said last week. But when I started doing all the math and started looking at the who's in, who's out, the conditions, I love Sydney the way they're going about it.
Yeah. And you're right, that experience last year, they were disappointed with the way things finished in that grand final, getting absolutely demolished by the Cats. They're going to have that little bit of hunger and fire in the belly, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're unpredictable now. Without Buddy there, and their unpredictability going forward. And if it's not Heaney, it's Papley, and all their small forwards kicking goals, and they can pop up and kick them from anywhere. So look, Carlton are very structured on the way they do it. You hold Charlie Curnow to 3 or 4 goals, Sydney will win.
Right, who gets a job on Curnow, mate?
Oh, look, who is it? They're back. The fullback. He come back a little bit injured, but he'll play all right.
Not Rampy, no. You thinking no?
No, can't remember. But I'll tell you that, he's out, isn't he?
Paddy is.
Yeah.
Hey,
but the other one I think is, when you're looking at, sides, and teams like this is that midfield battle. Every game is going to be massive, and just getting that ball out of the middle, that short, quick kick into an open space, and when it's on the ground, and Jackie Martin needs to kick 3 or 4 goals for Carlton to really stand up. So for me, I don't think they can rely just on Curnow.
Yeah, it's going to be an intriguing battle, and I must admit, I'm probably leaning a little bit with you, Spide, and I just think that 265 is an absolute luxury. The Palmer boys are giving up about a team that just knows how to win in September, and they've got a real spirit, that is for sure. And you're right, Curnow, that Curnow matchup, he's going to be the key. If he gets up and going, he's a barometer for the Blue Baggers. But going to be a great game, that is for sure. Hey, next game, your Saints, mate, taking on GWS Giants, Saturday, 3:20 at the MCG. I don't know whether this one's quite a sellout, Spide, like the first 2 finals, mate, but it won't be far off. The Saints faithful will be out and about. And, the Giants have a really good following down here too, which is great. Head-to-head, the Saints, $2.10. Giants at $1.75 at the line, St Kilda, plus 3.5, $1.90. GWS minus 3.5, $1.90. I've said it all year, Spide. Your Saints underdogs each and every week, mate. It's been quite amazing. You rolled the Giants, the only meeting this year, by 12 points up at Giants Stadium.
Yeah, look, and I reckon they can do it again. When you look at it, I think there's a couple of things here. GWS is one of the best defensive sides in the competition. We know that. You think of the Greens, Toby Green, Tom Green. I think a lot of eyes are going to be on Jesse Hogan. He's had a real cracking last part of the season. And, just GWS. Yeah. Oh, they've just got they've just got everything working beautifully for them. Their backs, their mids, forwards, Ruckman are doing like every part of their game is perfect. They haven't really got a line that lets them down. And you can really say the same about the Saints. The Saints have got the fullback of the year, and then you've got I reckon Rowan Marshall should have been the Ruckman of the year. You've got Kingy up forward, so they've really got a lot. Their spine, the Saints, is fantastic. So again, you sit there. The only thing I often think about St Kilda, and a lot of people would be the same, and I think Rossi Lyon will get them into it, is they've just got to believe. They've got to believe that they can actually win. Yeah. As soon as they start believing, and I think they have, and the young kids are starting to believe, and they've got the faith because now they've got that experience in there. The biggest question is, who do you play on Toby Green? Because if you can cut Toby Green down, that means
who gets first crack then, Spide? Do you reckon?
I don't know. I've been trying to.
They've got to be quick. They've got to be good in the air.
And this is a hard thing with Toby Green because you can't put a Jack Steele or a Krause because they're your midfield controllers, and you can't afford. The hardest thing with a Toby Green is that he knows that if he's got a one-on-one battle and he's too quick for him, he can control the game out there. He'll push everybody out and play one out in the square like Dusty can. Yeah. If he's got somebody a bit slower and not that, like you can never put a young guy on him because if he tears him up in the first quarter, you'll hurt that young guy for years with his confidence. So you've got to be careful because Toby will just take him in the middle and carve him up. So it's a real hard tag. And this is where I said earlier in the day, this is where it's one loss in the coaching ranks. And that selection is one of the most important because we know Toby can turn you around very quickly.
Yeah, and on the flip side, mate, the Saints with King and Memory, both good focal points. And Memory's had an injury interrupted season, as has King, but I reckon they're just coming good at the right time of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Those two are vital because, and then you've got, Butler, who always gets down there, kiss a couple. Higgins, he's always good for a couple of goals as well. So, those conditions. But, King is the one you want as a vocal point. He's the man that just presents to the footy, then the others get around him and, he makes things happen. So, Membry hasn't had the best, as you said, interrupted, coming back. But, he's definitely a player you want in the side, kick him well. So, look, I'm going to stick with the Saints. Still, I reckon they're absolutely a good enough team.
I love it, mate. You're sticking fat. And I seriously cannot believe that they've been an underdog virtually all season.
Oh, yeah. The guys at Palmer, I don't know what they just don't like the Saints. I don't know. But
something's happened along the line, hasn't it? Like something.
66 grand final, were they there? And I don't know.
Geez, they're not that old, big fella. I reckon we want to be a little bit careful, the boys. They won't be happy about that. Hey, let's turn our attention to the final game, mate. Brisbane taking on Port Adelaide. Saturday night at the Gabba. This will be sold out as well. It's going to be a cracker. Head-to-head, the Lions at $1.45. Port Adelaide at 2.78 at the line. Brisbane minus $15.5, $1.90. Port Adelaide plus $15.5, $1.90. That market's been pretty solid since betting has opened. Now, interesting here. So last time these two sides met, it was at the start of the season. I think it might have even been round one, Spide. That's how far we've got to go back. But Port Adelaide won by 54 points on their home deck. Absolutely demolished the Brisbane Lions. The Brisbane Lions have really hit form the last 5 weeks. They've won 4 out of their last 5. The Power have come good their last 3 games too, with a lot of players out with injury. The big news is, though, that Charlie Dixon, they reckon Spide, is not going to come up.
Well, that's going to be the big one, because if he does, Harris Andrews then obviously takes him and then allows the opportunity for all the other players. But there's a couple of really good issues here for both teams. Winning form's good for both of them. Are in pretty good shape. When you look at Port Adelaide, their midfield, Rosie and Butters, they can get Horn Francis, they get the ball forward and they kick goals. Their midfield kick a lot of goals. So you've got to really win it out of the midfield, because they just run forward, use each other, and hit the scoreboard. I love Power Pepper. He's going to be my finals man. Watch the big bald nut running around, and he's just an excitement machine inside the forward 50. But when you sit there and look at the Lions, you've got to say it is time to stand up. Like, this is their opportunity. They should be playing a grand final, and
if they don't make it, Sport. If they don't make the grand final this year, honestly, I reckon it's a cross. It is a big cross, and I reckon some questions are going to be asked, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. You need to be winning, and Ken Hinkley's been questioned about their time in finals. You need to be that team with the wins they've had and the positions they've finished. You need to be playing grand finals. Yeah. You need to be getting to the big dance, and this is their time. And they've got the forward line. We spoke about it every week. You got from Rayner to Cameron to Hipwood to Danaher. So there's so many. The key is here is for Port Adelaide to tag Lachie Neale and keep him quiet. He's their machine. He's the one that sets everything up. If they keep him under 15 touches, you're going halfway there to say, you know what, we've got this game. And if they do, Lachie Neale, Zorko, McCluggage, these blokes have to find a way to try and help Lachie Neale and support him, because he will get tagged, and trying to get him off the leash, because he's their main man. He's the one that you want the ball in the hands of.
Yeah. I reckon. So you're with the Lions, aren't you, here, Spide? You're pretty confident.
Yeah, I think the Lions will still win, and I'll be very surprised if they don't.
Yeah. I reckon out of the 4 games, I reckon this is probably the one where the confidence levels are probably the highest. I reckon. Being on their home deck, everyone's in good form. They're pretty injury free. The Power have got a few question marks over a few that have been carrying some niggles for some time. I reckon Brisbane are the kind of the standout moral for the weekend for me.
And, mentally, as much as you go there and you're ready and you're fired up and you want to win from the Port Adelaide perspective, you still know you're at Port Adelaide the week after.
Yep.
You've got a home game. You don't take it into the game, but you've got an opportunity. Yeah. So, in Brisbane, they lose this, they're in Melbourne from then on.
Oh, yeah. And the Knives will be out. It'll be the pressure cooker will just be, it'll be building. It'll be a game at the MCG, you would imagine, too, which is, they've got that hoodoo. So, they lose. They lose Saturday night, and look out. Hey, listen, big fella, this is what everybody's waiting for, mate. We want to know your selections we've just gone through.
Yep.
I'm going to key this in. Just recap them for me, mate. It is really simple on the Palmerbet app. Download the app. Get involved today. It's just so easy to navigate around, and you can do everything you absolutely want. It's just an easy app, mate. So give it to us, big fella.
Rightio, I'm going to stick. This is going to be my 4-game multi that I reckon, because I reckon Oliver will end up 7 or 8 tackles. Like, it's going to be huge. They're mid, so I'm going to take Melbourne to beat the Pies.
Yep.
I'm taking Sydney in the wet.
That's putting some value, mate. Yep.
Yep. I'm taking the Saints. I reckon they're just going to be a fraction harder.
Yep, more value.
And I reckon the Lions.
Righto, mate. That's going to get.
I won't even take the Lions at the line. I'll just take them to win.
Righto, mate. $16.13 head-to-head for those 4 teams winning, which is pretty good value when you look at it. you know, like obviously the Swannies are the one that are putting in that value at $2.65 to beat Carlton. So
Yeah,
I like it. I like it.
but
What
I'm not
else
convinced
you
with
got for
Carlton.
us? Yeah, I know.
Not everyone's convinced.
I'm not. The last 2 weeks have been a little bit disappointing for mine, and I put it down to that Harry Mackay factor coming back in. I reckon it's just unsettled them a little bit. I know that sounds silly because he's such a good player. He's a big man, but I reckon there'd be just a few little question marks in a few little players' minds heading into this.
Yeah, they're not going as well as like they can talk it up. But anyway, that's mine. And okay,
Right. What else you got for us, big fella?
Rightio. This is my football kick and goal multi. So it's rain, hail, or sunshine. Okay.
Beautiful, mate. How do you come up with these names, big fella? I love it.
So, of course, I'm going to take Ginnivan to kick 2 goals.
Yes, you're on the wagon, mate. I like it.
Yeah, I reckon he'll kick 2 goals. And then I'm going to go Heaney to kick 2.
Yeah, he's had a great year again. Yep.
I was going to go between Dan Butler and Memory, but I'm going to go Dan Butler. He's been in good form. He's been very consistent. Yep. So I'll go Butler to kick 2, and then I'm going
2
Danaher.
2 plus 2 plus. Yep.
Danaher 4 plus.
Oh, gee whiz, big fella.
Mate, sunshine.
Smoking Joe. Just smack a few
Smoking Joe.
He needs to, though. He needs to have a good final series, doesn't he, Spide?
Big conditions, great day.
Yep.
26 degrees, perfect up there. Home deck, 35,000 people supporting it. And I'm backing in. And that 4 will add towards his $12 for most goals for the final series.
Hey, you know what, mate? This is huge price. $67.57 on the Palmer Bet app, big fella. That is good, mate.
$67.67.
So Jackie G to kick 2 plus, Isaac Heaney to kick 2 plus, Dan Butler to kick 2 plus, and Smoking Joe Danaher 4 plus, $67.57, Spide.
In wet conditions, those first 3, absolute.
I love it, mate. I like it. I like it. Rain, hail, or sunshine.
Sunshine.
That is brilliant, mate. Hey, listen, it is going to be an absolute ripping first week of the finals. I'm looking forward to this next 4 or 5 weeks, Spide. It's going to be sensational and so much to play out. And, if your team's in there, good luck, because I honestly reckon any one of these 8 teams to reach a grand final will not surprise me this year, big fella.
Yeah, I think anybody, if your team is it, get behind them, support them, get around them, because as you say, if a GWS ends up in a grand final, everybody will go, you know what? They've actually deserved it. Even if Carlton, St Kilda, everybody in it this year, they've got, and anybody can beat anyone on their day and switched on and mentally ready to go on the perfect conditions. I reckon there's no team that can't be beating a team that's playing them. So, it's exciting. We can't. That's what we want. That's what we want finals to look like. And that's great. Cannot wait. Thursday night too, even better.
Oh, I love Thursday night footy. The sooner the AFL lock it in, the better. The NRL do it all year. It's brilliant, I reckon. It starts your week, as you said, Spide, your weekend. It's absolutely sensational. Hey, download that Palmer Bet app. But as we always say, gamble in a responsible manner and always think about what you're actually really gambling with. Spide, you have a wonderful weekend, big fella. Good luck to your Saints. Well, you got the Swannies in there too, mate. One of your former clubs as well. So good luck to both your former clubs, big fella. And I look forward to talking to you next week, buddy.
Absolutely. I know if the Saints get up, I'll be going to the second final. Just looking forward to it. So hopefully they get up and the conditions improve. I don't want it too cold if I go to Melbourne.
Mate, you'll be just signing autographs in the crowd, mate. You're like a cold hero down this way. That's why you can't live in Victoria anymore, mate. You've got to live in a state because you're just too big.
There's plenty of other reasons. Not bad.
Hey, good on you, mate. We'll talk next week, buddy.
Cheers.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.